Welcome to Dr. Jester Talks, and I'm gonna talk about the presidential debates from last night. This one was relatively better because the moderator was a bit of an improvement from the last Chris Wallace, I think. Either way, it was Wallace. And then the debate with Savannah Guthrie. She pretty much was a disaster. But this one, she did a great job. She managed to keep her TDS in check. To the point that there was one point on the debate that even I thought that, holy shit on a pickle, I can't believe Biden said that. She acted like that in one tiny little bit on the debate. I'm gonna get there eventually. This one seems to be a bit of a long video, so bear with me. Okay, I did manage to make a few notes of the debate as I went through watching the debate. I made a few notes, and it may or may not be long. Let's see. Biden then claims that Trump is responsible for all the deaths. And he shouldn't be president due to the amount of deaths. Death. And I guess in this case, maybe Obama shouldn't have been president. Remember the swine flu? And he had a very large amount of deaths for a disease that wasn't nearly as lethal as this one. Or when he claims the dark winter is coming, the dark winter is coming, in which he mentioned because winter is coming, Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, and said that the dark winter, yeah, no. There's a vaccine that there is a possibility that may be released before the year's end, and that's good news. But Trump is trying to be a bit positive. He's trying to give hope to the American people. Biden then attacks him for giving hope, but then later on Biden, in the end, I believe in that statement that yes, Biden says he says hope over fear, but then obviously he attacked Trump multiple times when Trump tried to give hope to the American people. What in the actual fuck is wrong with Biden? Well, actually, let me rephrase that. What actually isn't wrong with Biden? I think that would be the best and the best question. What do you think? Then Biden accused Trump of being xenophobic for closing down the borders with China. Then Biden, in this case, backpedals on the xenophobic comment, which he later did. He said, Trump did it too late. Trump did it too late. But, and he backpedals in this. I'm sorry about that. Allergies again. It's exceptionally dusty right now. And my beautiful, fragile nostrils cannot handle this amount of dust properly. It's incompetent. I think it was a diversity hire when I was born, and I don't know what was wrong with the person with the HR department in my body who decided to bring me this respiratory apparatus. I claim it's a diversity hire, but well, anyway, Biden then backpedals. Trump, you did it too late. Well, when Trump did it too early, he got called by Biden. He was xenophobic. And now, with Nancy Pelosi dancing in Chinatown in New York, why do you worry? Trump called on Biden over this. You could see every time Trump squeezed his balls a little, you could see his face. It was hilarious. And Trump even went on and said, look, the virus is not my fault, nor is Biden's fault. It's China's fault. He was excellent on that sentence. He said, look, it's you're my it's like he said, look, you are my rival, my political rival, you're my opposing candidate who wants to be president, and even I have to admit that it's also not your fault for this virus, even if you were the president in that situation. It's amazing. Trump is amazing. Why? Okay, let's see what else do I have noted here. Press on shutdowns. When Trump pressed on the shutdowns, Biden started to stutter. I don't want to shut down. I don't want to shut down. I don't want to shut down, but bars and gyms and other things needs to be shut down. Trump didn't want to panic. Exactly. Biden then later on accused Trump of, but this is gonna disappear in April. You said that. Look, Trump is trying to give hope. Like I said at the end with the closing statement from Biden, he said he wanted to give hope to the people, but then again attacked Trump for giving hope. For fuck's sake, Trump gave hope and didn't want people to panic. Remember the shenanigans with with TP, with toilet paper? Yeah, I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that. Are you old enough to remember that? Because it was in February from this year. Jesus Christ. And then Biden says, no. No, let's see. I don't see blue states and red states. But as you can see, there's a huge spike on the red states. Are you shitting me? Then later on, with Trump actually pushing about the emails, Biden claims that Rudy Giuliani is a Russian disinformation, even though DOJ, FBI, even the signature on the receipt matches Joe Biden's, and DOJ and FBI confirmed on everything that it is not a Russian disinformation. Even people who emailed back with Hunter Biden that it was on the emails. The recipient of the emails emailed back, or even went on the TV, went on with the press and etc. They confirmed that this was real, and Biden still said this. And then Biden attacks that Trump is a puppet of Russia, etc. But Trump mentioned another thing. He mentioned NATO and making the member countries pay up. Why would Russia want that? Want NATO to get funded? As far as I know, Russia hates NATO. And Trump is being tough on Russia because of this. He made the member countries, all the NATO member countries, pay up what is due. Now, of course, Biden keeps denying email. Later on, he keeps on denying and denying and denying. And then he attacks Trump over the New York Times article. Remember the one who said, Trump only paid $750. No, that's completely and utterly fake. Trump prepaid the taxes. In fact, all the money that he was expected to receive from his tax refunds, he said, no, keep it and pay it for the next taxes. And America, you can do this. You can do this whether in the shithole I live in, but in America, you actually can do this, and it's awesome. Trump admits to having multiple accounts because he's also a businessman. Because this is in part where Biden attacked Trump over his account in China. As it turns out, there was actually less than $140,000 in there. It's a huge amount of money to me, but for a businessman like Trump and Americans, it's definitely not as much as you will expect it to be. So it's Trump change. But the IRS knows about the knew about the Chinese account, and Trump closed it apparently before he ran for president because he knew he was going to do it. Another thing that I forgot to mention, but I actually noted here, is Biden stuttering. When he said Biden obviously meant B-1 bombers, but he stuttered and said BB-1, BB-1, BB-1. It was hilarious. But another thing that even though Kristen Walker did an exceptional job, she didn't quite allow Trump to respond too much about of what Biden was talking about. She would interrupt Trump or not let him respond back. He's allowed to say it. He's allowed to respond back, especially when Biden attacked him. Let me drink some coffee. I think I got the... Once again, I fucked up the sweetener amount again. Because this sweetener is kind of weak. So this time I actually exaggerated in the quantity. And now it's too sweet. Oh, bollocks. Anyway, she kept interrupting Trump, and especially when Trump would actually start squeezing Biden's balls, she would interrupt him, especially in that one. Another hilarious bit was Biden saying, "Malarkey, that's malarkey!" And Biden was exceptionally struggling a lot when Kristen Walker asked him in regards to North Korea. He kept confusing with China, and then look, the way I wrote here is that Kristen Walker about the Trump accused Biden Kristen Walker accused Biden and Obama of witnessing 4 nuke tests in North Korea, and that's when Biden started to struggle. He confuses China and South Korea with alliances. China and South Korea making alliances, making joint military exercises, then moving base closer to the border. What the fuck was he talking about? It was very, very confusing. And then Biden, when Trump said that he wanted to have good relations now with North Korea, he wanted to fix exactly the mess that he inherited. Yes, I think it is, that's the word. He got it inherited from Obama and Biden. You remember how North Korea was kind of its trigger finger was itchy. You remember how okay, there's a tiny little hair that started to that North Korea started to want to attack America, things like that. And they was saying that Trump is guilty, that Trump is going to get America into a third world war. Nothing happened, and in the end, Trump even walked to North Korea without even a security team. Those are huge balls. I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that. That only shitballs. And then in this conversation, Biden then got wind Trump for saying that that America had good relations with Hitler. Did you just win? Goddamn fucking Trump. Holy shit. And then they moved on the conversation to healthcare. They got Trump because Trump was talking about healthcare, how he wants to reform it, and he wants the time to do it. He wants to ditch the problematic bits and make a better healthcare plan, etc. And they cut Trump's mic. And then they started to mention about the relief payments, the money that the government was giving to the Americans, and why wasn't that approved? And Trump, rightly so, said that Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to give. Biden, of course, got completely and utterly triggered over it, and you can see that it is a factual information. Even Nancy Pelosi has started to attack Wolf Blitz, I believe, from CNN. She got completely and utterly unhinged with him when he accused her of not cheating, because the bill is stopped because of her. Jesus Christ. And then they started to mention about Biden started to mention about the gates, the cages on immigration and everything, and Trump Suspense brought them. This is actually kind of hilarious, which I will then go on a later video, because of the blue checkmark gang in Twitter. They got a bit retarded and they do not know what coyotes mean, and apparently Biden doesn't know what coyotes mean, because he says, let me get the old man's voice. But the parents are the ones who brought them, not the coyotes. Of course it was the coyotes who brought them, because the parents paid the coyotes. They are the smugglers. They are the ones that smuggle people between borders. Of course he didn't realize that. And then Trump really started to squeeze Biden's balls, and he did it twice. Who built the cages, Joe? Who built the cages, Joe? And Joe Biden kept quite quiet. He wouldn't even reply. And later on the same question about the illegality of border crossings, Biden started to struggle to answer. He says, Rio Grande. You know, the river that separates Mexico and the US around the southern border. That was hilarious too. But moving on, and now they moved on about racism. Biden calls Trump as Abe Lincoln. Obviously, Trump said that he's the least racist president since Abe Lincoln. And Biden, I don't know what went on to his brain, but he called Trump Abe Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, and then he called Proud Boys Poor Boys. Ha! Hilarious. It was that was the perfect thing to do, because letting Biden talk, he managed to dig himself in a grave, and he does it professionally. And Trump then kept on talking about how Biden was in government during 47 years, and 8 of... sorry, allergies again. Like I said, I think it's a diversity higher. He then on said that 47 years, 8 of those he was a vice president. Why didn't he do anything? All talk, no action. Biden got really quiet and silent about that. Obviously, then later on, they started to move, and Biden kept on talking about the Green New Deal. Are you shitting me? The amount of money you're going to waste in trying to put those put that Green New Deal in operation is going to cost a lot, $100 trillion. Do you want to know how many generations that is going to cost for Americans? That's going to probably 2-3 generations of Americans paying a bill that nobody can afford. That is going to break the country. And even more so, that is not a guarantee that these green measures are going to work or be effective. For instance, solar panels and windmills, which was also discussed in this, are not really that clean or green as you expect, because they are very dirty, as they take a lot of the environment when producing and then discarding. And even more so, the repair rate of the windmills and the solar panels are much higher. So for every watt you generate, it costs a lot in repairs and all of those things in comparison to nuclear energy. If you want the Green New Deal to work, you will have to ditch the entire windmill and solar panel mentality and go nuclear. But obviously that is not the case. Even Biden said later on that he wants to phase out oil, and that is the best part ever. since he wants to close down the oil industry, Kristen Walker got surprised by Biden's answer. You could actually see she got really surprised about it. She was, whoa! She went on like saying, "Wow, why would you do that?" And she asked him quite like that, like a really surprised. Let me drink here because my throat is getting a bit ooh. Diversity highs even my dim body. She was really surprised by, yes, I'm gonna phase out oil. Why would you do that, Biden? Exactly, why would you do that? And that means that Biden definitely lost the states that are dependent on oil. Holy shit, and Biden will definitely ban fracking. He has said so multiple times, but in this debate he said no, and he even dared Trump to show him saying those things. And actually Trump went on ahead and shared this various footages of Biden saying that he will ban oil, he will ban fracking, and all those things. It's hilarious. But as closing statements and everything else. By the way, before I go on, Trump also mentioned about how windmills are inefficient. He's completely right, because the windmills would actually also cause birds to actually hit the blades when they turn, because they are huge and they keep on moving. Sometimes they move quite fast due to the wind, and they are quite inefficient because there are days that are windy. So when it's windy, you produce a lot of energy, but you don't have a way to store that energy. So you have to waste it somewhere, you have to throw it out. And there are days when there's barely any wind, and that's when you need energy. And when that energy when you don't have that energy, what do? You do it like Germany does. They pump out coal plants and pump out in the environment all that coal gas and things like that soot. Obviously, windmills is not the answer. Neither is solar. It's pretty much the same thing. When it's a sunny day, you produce a lot of energy. So much so that if you don't waste it, you're gonna burn a lot of shit around the area. So you have to throw it out. But when it's cloudy and things like that, there's barely any energy production. And what happens? You need to turn on those coal plants. Like I said, it's very wasteful. So much so that Germany pollutes a whole lot more than France, despite Germany having more windmill and solar energy panels. Why? Because France decided to ditch out that nonsense and go nuclear. See? That's the answer. And even more so, windmills and solar panels consume a lot of ground, a lot of terrain, which a nuclear plant doesn't. By the wattage, you could... I probably should have opened up the image here to show you guys, but suffice to say, this is... let's make a comparison. This is what you will take to power up the whole of the US with a nuclear plant. You will need probably the size of Texas with windmills and solar panels to power up the US using those technologies. It's disturbing why Biden wants to use this. I don't know. But in the closing statements, Trump said that, and Trump is right, he said to bring hope to Americans, etc. And that if Biden wins, America is going to plunge in a depression worse than the one from the 20s, 1929, etc. And he's absolutely right, because Biden wants to increase the minimum wages regardless of the states, on the condition of the states. For instance, in New Jersey, New York, on California, etc., $15 is kind of expected as a minimum wage because of the amount of taxes and etc. And so things cost more and people receive more. But if you move on to other states which taxes are less and the minimum wage is less, you're gonna hike up to $15. you're going to get a problem. Your businesses will not be able to stay afloat. You're gonna get massive layoffs, and especially right now, Biden says, "Oh, due to the pandemic, I think this is the best time ever to raise the $15 minimum wage." Are you insane? The businesses right now are barely staying afloat due to the lockdown, especially the mom and pop businesses in the Democratic areas. That's one of the things that you can see, that Biden is not pro small businesses. He is very pro multiple billion industries, multinational companies, etc. Mom and pop businesses, tiny businesses, is not for him. That's why that's you can see that mentality on that one. You can see him struggling with that. Because if you raise the minimum wage from a mom and pop business, a small business, you're gonna cripple the business. You're gonna make them go under. There's no way they can actually raise that much money in such a short time, especially after a lockdown or during a lockdown. And this is where Biden eventually said in the closing statements that he wants to give hope to the people. Yet he attacked Trump when Trump was giving hope to the people. It's this. This, in my opinion, was great. Trump definitely won this debate. No questions about it. Not even an if or buts. Trump won. And he was dominating the debate. He was a complete Chad, an alpha. He was even reeling in Kristen Walker, despite her interrupting him a couple of times, but he dominated the entire section. You could actually see how big of a heart Trump has. He actually cares about everybody. You can see it on his face. He's awesome. I like him. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you on my next video. Good night.